everybody, it's Paul from Screenwriting Scribe. Just wanted to thank you all for joining me today as we look at another real talk. And I'm mixing up the order a little bit today because I wanted to just talk, do some real talk, REAL talk, in terms of sometimes it's hard to be a creative, a YouTuber or a screenwriter or anything like that. And I think there's times where we have these things. That something that really hit me last week was imposter syndrome. Like, how do I feel like I can do things? And so I worked on a couple different videos last week, and they all just sort of, I couldn't get them done. And it was hard from that perspective. But I think that a lot of times, as creatives, we run into those roadblocks. How do we get stuff done? How do we pick ourselves up after a week where it didn't go exactly as we'd like it to go? And so that was sort of me last week. I didn't get as many videos done as I wanted to, or even just get as much writing done as I wanted to. And I think it's good that we talk into that and just say, hey, there's times when we're trying to be creative, times when we're trying to do stuff and it doesn't always turn out. And so the thing that we tend to not want to do is to just ignore the work and never go back to it again. And I think what I learned this week for myself is that you really need to plow into the work a little bit more. You need to get back on the horse and just keep trying it. Which is something I'm really going to try to do this week, which I am doing, because I got here and I got the real talk up and running this week. So we're going to talk about some fun subjects for today, but I just want to let you know, if you're having a hard time with writing or something like that, just how do you get back on the horse? How do you get back on doing what you like to do? The other thing is to remember, why do you do this? And so for me, doing YouTube videos and stuff like that, it's fun to interact with you folks. So last week was sort of a real downer for me in terms of my productivity and just where I was in my mental space. And at the same time, last week was one of the best weeks for the YouTube channel, in that I got 1,600 subscribers. So thank you all for who are subscribed and who watch and who give me feedback and who walk along with me on this journey for this particular channel. So it was great. I'm really happy and for that. And at the same time, I'm still having that hard time with not getting as much other stuff done as I want to. And so just a reminder that there's going to be weeks that you're going to have low productivity, but just to get back on the horse and keep working at it. And it's not anything against you as a person. What it is we all hit these we can't all hit these high points that we always want. Sometimes we do have low points, and so as a creative, we have to figure out how we're going to deal with those low points. So thank you for following me along with that. The next thing we're going to do, so some of the other things I just wanted to talk about with the stream. So I did something a little different with the stream. I changed so the banner down on this side is now blue. I thought that was cool. I like that color. I did add my icon, the Screenwriting Scribe icon, up there in the corner. I did start us off with a little different way to count us down, and I'm also on LinkedIn right now too. So I thought that was so cool stuff. So I think the other thing to talk about in terms of creativity too is keep trying to stretch yourself. Try new things, and that helps too. And like I said, I think a lot of times, I know for myself, I have fear of failure, and I think just keep trying is the big thing, because some of my videos turn out great, some of them don't. Some of my screenplays turn out great, some of them don't. But the thing is, I keep trying, and I think that's the one thing I just want to keep imploring you to do, is keep trying. So let's take a look at some box office numbers, because we have some really cool. We have some really interesting numbers this week. Let me get this stuff up here. We'll take a look at the domestic box office. So I was wrong about Borderlands. I know, scary, right? So let me get to my numbers video. There we go. Okay. So as we look at sort of our numbers for this week, so in the video that I was talking about before, for last week's video, I was thinking about I gave it a pretty big spread between I think about $20 and $40 million for Borderlands, but shockingly, we weren't that close at all. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here, because I actually went to go see Borderlands, and boy, was it a stinker. And we'll talk a little bit about why. So Deadpool, again, has the top spot with $54 million. Officially worldwide, they're over $1 billion, which is the highest R-rated movie in the world, or in terms of history. So that's great. So that's a great win for the Walt Disney Studios, who's had a lot of blockbusters, or a lot of slumps in terms of blockbusters. Now, the interesting thing with this is Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively, comes up with the second movie. It Ends With Us, $50 million. So no one saw this one coming either. It's sort of, in some sense, people were comparing it to Barbie and Oppenheimer when they came out, to that type of effect. And Ryan Reynolds is really good at marketing, and so I think that had some of it to play into it. But we'll talk a little bit in a couple moments why I think it also is something that we as screenwriters should look at, and why it's important for us to look at these type of things from time to time to see what the audience are looking for. Twisters still doing pretty good. So anything, again, under 50% means it's not a significant drop in the box office. So it's still doing good. It's been 4 weeks in, and it actually did better than Borderlands with $15 million. It's not as good as it hasn't taken as much money in as the original Twister. So some of the reason for that is probably not everybody knows what a twister is. In different parts of the world, tornadoes and typhoons and hurricanes are all sort of indistinguishable from each other. So people don't really understand that. And so it actually has done better domestically than it has internationally, which makes sense. Borderlands, remember I said 20 to 40? 8.8 million. Ouch. Lionsgate Films, you really sucked on that one. So Despicable Me 4, again, really good. 8 million. So they're at $330 million in terms of a box office. Trap, 56.5. Again, we saw that coming in that it wasn't a very good movie. It's still going to make its money back. It's about 28. It only cost them about $30 million, and they didn't do a lot of publicity and stuff like that. So I doubt it was about $60 million, including publicity. I think it was a lot less. So even though it's a bad movie, and M. Night Shyamalan isn't making a lot of money from it, he's going to make enough to make his money back, maybe a little bit of a profit with it, especially when it gets out in the streaming. The next movie, Inside Out 2, still doing great, 27.2%, 4.9 million. It's made a total gross of $636 million, which is just awesome. Harold and Purple Crayon continue to fall, $12 million. It's been a really underperforming picture for Columbia Pictures. Cuckoo, I don't really know a lot about this particular one. Came in with $3 million. I think it's another horror movie that's come out. So we'll see what kind of legs it's got on it. Speaking of legs, Long Legs rounds out the top 10 with a $2 million box office, making $71 million. And this film didn't cost them that much to begin with. So they're making lots of profit on this. So this is all really cool stuff within the box office. I wasn't thinking that Long Legs would be able to stick around, but they're doing good. Quiet Place Day One has jumped out of the top 10, which we're not surprised with because it's now on digital. And the rest of the stuff is where it is at right now too. So cool. Let's just make sure I don't have any comments. Yep. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about these movies. I'm going to pull up a Hollywood Reporter article because I think that'll help stitch some insights into what's going on. So if we take a look at the Hollywood article here. So Lively Reynolds box office domination. Deadpool and Wolverine stays number one with 54 million and Ends With Us soars to a huge $50 million opening weekend. And so, like I said, we can see here that the total overall with Wolverine and stuff has 494.3 million over in terms of the domestic box office, but overseas $535 million. Global worldwide haul of 1.02, which surpasses Joker. So woohoo! So the other thing, as we look at the second film, It Ends With Us. It's a Sony picture. And the reason why I think this one did so well is if we look down a little bit farther into the article here, most of the people who saw this were women. And so it really showcases what when women want to see a film, how they'll come out to see it. Because I remember hearing from one of the other YouTube, Grace from Inside Hollywood was talking. She went to see this particular movie, and she was not a big fan of it, but she said it was good for the people who were there. But she saw a lot of people there who normally wouldn't go to a movie, and so this movie actually brought a lot of women out into the theaters and stuff like that. So it also had a really good cinema score and a high percentage of audience score on Rotten Tomatoes as well, too. So people really like this movie. So the other thing that's interesting about this that Hollywood seems to forget from time to time is that movies based on books tend to do pretty good. Not always. It depends on the book adaptation, but it happens. And so if you have a good book, you tend to get good followers from the book, and you have a good plot, you have a good story. And so it's not surprising that this particular book did well. Ticket buyers, it's right here. Ticket buyers for It Ends With Us were 84% female, spread across all adult age groups. So again, it really shows that when a demographic within the society is sort of ignored in terms of movie making stuff, that when there's a film that they really resonate with, they will go out and support it. And so, like I said, there hasn't been a lot of films aimed at women. And so this one was basically aimed at women. And you can see the result, $50 million on the opening weekend. And I think you're going to see a very strong box office. I don't think it's going to fall. I think it's going to probably be about 30 million. I think you're going to have a very strong box office for the next week or two, because I don't think there's anything in the box. Well, as we'll see in a moment, nothing is going to be coming up that is really going to dethrone it for quite a while in terms of something else that women would want to go see. So this is the first of Hoover's books, which was adapted for the big screen. The film was directed by Bondoli and cost a modest $25 million to produce before marketing. They've already made their money back, folks. So this is the one thing that I think Hollywood needs to look at too. There's a lot of good dramas. There's a lot of good human interest movies like this. And if they would just go about not having these big budgeted movies, you could still make a lot of money back. You know, if we looked at the box office for this past week, like I said, we look at Long Legs, that cost, I think it was less. I think it was about $10 million to make, and they're making they've made $70 million, which is a huge increase. And I think studios need to get away from some of these big blockbuster tentpole movies and support some of these movies that people are going to want to watch as well. And not everybody wants to watch car chases and action scenes like that. Not that those are bad, but you can also make a lot of money doing films that people also find interesting that don't always involve car chases and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting. Let's see here. And I think we talked a little bit about and then we're going to talk about, and we'll do a longer video about this, or a longer part in the pop culture section talking about Borderlands. So 8.8 million. That is depressing. And so the Hollywood Reporter says another nationwide entry was Lionsgate's big budget Borderlands, which bit the dust in opening at 8.8 million. I was part of that money. Behind already muted projections, despite a star-studded cast including Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jack Black, Rena Greenblatt, and Florin, and I can't pronounce her last name. Directed by Eli Roth, the video game adaptation, which cost north of $110 million to produce, was roundly panned by critics. Audiences felt the same in slapping it with a D+ on Cinema Score. Lionsgate's insiders say the studio losses will be minimalized by selling off international rights. Yeah. And I was right. Cuckoo, it says in the bottom part of the article, Cuckoo is another specialty horror film, and started off with $3 million. Perfect. All right. So let's get... So as we look at the box office numbers again, I think the big thing to take away from these numbers is, again, what our audience is looking for. And so generally, I know during the fall, I'm going to pull up my box office numbers here again, because I think it's important for us to look at. Let's make sure there we go. So I think it's important here as a screenwriter to sort of say, okay, so what's the trends here? What trends should we need to be paying attention to as a screenwriter in terms of what kind of movies we should be writing. Now, always we should be writing movies that we find interesting, that we tell the stories that we need to tell, the compelling stuff like that. At the end of the day, so here's some interesting things too. So we found out that It Ends With Us. Again, it's a movie based on a book, and so that, you know, if you have a good book that people like, you have a built-in audience, you have that IP that Hollywood execs want. You know, if you can buy the rights to the book and create the screenplay on that, there you go. That's a winning formula, because, like I said, we see that with Ends With Us. Now, again, Twisters is built on a previous IP. Like I said, I'm still really surprised at how well that did. But if you look in terms of box office wise, if we look at the other movies that have come out, it's really one of the only disaster movies that's really there. And so that's probably why it's been doing so well. There hasn't been a lot of disaster movies released recently. In some sense, you could call it a disaster movie as well as a monster movie, because the Twisters could be considered monsters, you know. And so we haven't had a really good monster movie come out recently. So then let's take a look at Borderlands again. So Borderlands, the movie was really bad. I went to see that with my son. It was really, really pretty awful. And people are like, well, it's a video game. What do you expect? They've actually done video games pretty well. Mario Brothers has been out recently. I think Borderlands brings us back to the time back in the 80s and early 90s when video game movies weren't as good. And I think you really see that. It really felt like a play-by, or it didn't even feel like that they knew that they were doing. I mean, it just was really, the characters were really flat. And I'll save a little bit more of this for the pop culture stuff, but just the scenes didn't feel like they were going anywhere. So generally when you're writing a scene, you want it to lead to the next scene, and you want to know what's going to happen next. I can tell you, when I watched the movie, I didn't really care what happened next. And to me, that's bad writing. So that I'm not drawn to that next scene. I'm not saying, okay, what's going to happen next? I wasn't really interested. I wasn't really invested. Now, to be fair, though, I also saw a lot of reviews saying this was a crap movie. And so maybe some of that fed into my feelings when I was watching the movie. But it was also funny, too. Borderlands is also well known for its humor and stuff like that. And I got a couple people snickering from time to time, too. But there was no full-on laughs. And like I said, a lot of the jokes fell really, really flat. So as we take a look at in terms of box office for the rest of the week here. So if we look at trends again that we're looking for, again, family movies are doing pretty good. So even though Harold and the Purple Crayon aren't doing great, they still pulled in. They're still hanging on there in the second week you can see there's a couple family movies out there, which is not surprising since we are in the middle of summer. So I think that's a pretty good thing. So if you're looking for especially something to release in the summer, look for a family movie. We saw how well a family movie like Inside Out did when it can reach adults as well as children. You see that with the $636 million gross with the Minions. You see it when it just hits kids, and it hits kids well. You see 330 million. When you see it didn't hit adults as well, that's why it's not as good as Inside Out 2 in terms of the box office. The other thing too, horror movies still doing good. They either seem to really hit really well or they really do not. So yes, Longlegs is doing it really well and Cuckoo is not. Like I said, thinking ahead for the box office for next week, I think you're going to see Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm going to make the claim that they're going to be below It Ends With Us in terms of the box office. I think It Ends With Us is going to be about 30 million box office. I think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to slip to 25 million. And Twisters will slip again to about 7.5 million. Borderlands, if it makes 4 million more next week, I will be shocked. I think it'll maybe make $3 million next week, if that, maybe 2. It'll be interesting to see if it even falls out of the top 10. I don't know. It's just really bad. So with that all said, let's take a look at what's coming out next week in terms of movies. All right, so let's switch my banner to upcoming movies. There we go. All right, so the upcoming movies for this time around will be, everybody's in suspense, I know. at least near me, is going to be Alien versus, Alien Romulus is what it's going to be. And let me get my head out of there. There we go. And I'll drop the banner for a second there. Oops, banners. There you go. So Alien Romulus is what's going to be coming out here in the next week or so. So interesting enough, looking at what Alien Romulus is, it's actually a movie between aliens and Alien. It's set between the events of Alien 1979 and Aliens 1986. The story concerns a group of young space colonists who, while scavenging a derelict space station, come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. It's also the 7th film in the Alien franchises and serves as a standalone interquel set between the events of, again, Alien and Aliens. So the interesting thing about this particular movie is some people are comparing it to CW meets Aliens. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that does. Looking at the trailer doesn't look too bad. I thought it looked interesting, but it doesn't look very different than what we've seen in the past. So are people going to be wanting to go back to see sort of a similar Alien experience? It looks across, even though it's an interquel between Alien and Aliens, it looks like it's sort of a cross between the two. So like I said, we'll have to see. I'm hopefully going to check that one out, see if it's any good or not. Don't have a lot of hope for it. Let's see, box office wise, let's say 15 million. I think it'll be about 15 million. I could be wrong. It could be great. It could be one of the best things known to man. It could be a great scary movie. Again, we had just talked about, is there enough monster movies out? Twisters is your sort of pseudo monster movie right now. Will this be the next one in the coming along to do that as well too? Will it be another monster movie that people are really going to want to watch? Will it be exciting? How will the plot be? So it'll be interesting to see. I haven't heard anything early on it yet, but what do you guys think? Do you think Alien Romulus, is it something that you really want to go see? Is it not? So, all right. Well, let's take a look and talk about pop culture a little bit. We talked a little bit about Borderlands, and I'll give you my talk about. I have a article by Screen Rant, I believe. Yes, Screen Rant. So let's talk a little bit about Screen Rant here. What the heck happened to Borderlands? Why couldn't it even break $10 million? So basically what they're saying is, in this particular article, is that one of the reasons why Borderlands didn't do so well was the biggest video game characters were missing from the film. Causing a lot of initial disappointment. And despite the rest of Borderlands' talented cast members, the film was already off to a rough start concerning winning over game fans. And so the other thing, too, is Borderlands, the last sequel, has been out, I think it was 2019, so it's been a couple of years since it's been out. But like I said, if you look at, I said last week in my article, or in the live stream, that I think this was going to have a hard time doing well, is because, so games like Borderlands versus Super Mario, there's a difference, because in Super Mario, you get a set character. You sort of know who they are. You know their actions. In Borderlands, you're really sort of crafting your own character, right? You're creating the person that, what type of gear you want, how you interact with the people around you, what you find is fun and stuff like that. And that's a lot different than the regular character that you see in like a Super Mario Brothers, or like Assassin's Creed or something like that, where you have a set character. And if they follow that set character, and so I thought they were going to have a hard time with this, because it's a lot harder when you don't know the character. Everybody has sort of an individualized character of who they were when they played the game and stuff like that. So, yeah, like I said, I couldn't see my character. I played Zero the Sniper in Borderlands. I think it was Borderlands 2. And so that was my character. And so I didn't really see that character in the people that were being played, or being the actors who were being played. The other thing I didn't like about Borderlands has to do with this thing that Hollywood does, and this is not just with women; they also do it with men as well too. There are several. I used to watch a lot of, or I still watch a lot of older movies, and you'll see this with like Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart. They're set in to be these younger folks, and so, and like, I can't remember the one movie I was watching with Jimmy Stewart, but he's supposed to play a person who's like 25, because his love interest, she's only like really 21. But you can tell from the actor, he was in his mid 40s with that, and I'm like, that doesn't really play well with me. I know they wanted to use that as a vehicle for them to get in there, and not to say they're not good actors, but I think that's what you sort of ran into with Jamie Lee Curtis and Kate Blanchett, was that you had these older actresses playing characters who are much younger, because Kate Blanchett's character was supposed to be 25, she's 55. Jamie Lee Curtis' character, I think, was in her 40s, and Jamie Lee Curtis is 62. And so I think that would have helped too, if people could get more into the characters and stuff like that. And I think that's something that's broadly across all of Hollywood. That's not just a man or woman issue. That's something that Hollywood does because they want to include the star in the movie. So the other thing that I think about that they talked about for Borderlands was when it debuted on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 0% approval rating. And again, it comes down to how it was written. I mean, the characters, I think this. So here's some basic stuff as we think about it as screenwriters. People weren't. The scenes were just bad. I mean, like I said, when you write a scene, you want sort of like a beginning, middle, and end of the scene, and you want something to happen over that. Like I said, each scene is sort of like a mini story arc, and there was no story arc. I don't know the motivations for all these, like Kevin Hart's character. What is his motivation to begin with? I never knew his motivation. You had people turn on a dime. Like there's this lady who defends the group at the end of the movie who was against them before, and she just suddenly, oh no, you're bad, and now I'm going to switch to the good side now. And it's like, well, why? There's no reason for that. It was, and the villain himself was like, okay, what do they really want? What's the end goal? Why is it so bad that he gets this vault? It just didn't make any sense. And then Claptrap was just Jack Black's character he was just really bad. I mean, the jokes were beyond dad jokes. They just were really not good. And I think that's the thing that just drove me nuts as well too. It just was like, you're trying to say jokes just to make people laugh. There was no like set up a payoff and stuff like that. And so like I said, they talk a little bit more about why. Again, here they write the Borderlands is a popular game. However, it wasn't released. The last game it was released in 2019. Now, this is where I don't agree with them. This particular article, they say Borderlands is also not as popular as franchises as recent adaptations that have worked, such as Fallout, The Last of Us, Super Mario Brothers movie, and Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Borderlands is still a pretty popular franchise. I would put it probably in the same field as Fallout, to be honest with you. That's my personal opinion and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, there's the reasons here. They say like combined with lesser popular IP, which is debatable, being too different for video game fans. I agree with that. And too inaccessible for general audience. Borderlands had several challenges to overcome even before its initial reviews. Yeah, I agree with all that. And like I said, I think the thing that Borderlands could have been a good movie. But the problem was that the whole story structure was bad. I mean, like, and so how would I fix Borderlands? So why is it bad for him to get the vault? Let's talk about the villain more. Let's sort of flesh out people's motivations a little bit more. Let's not worry about jumping from scene to scene so much, but let's have each scene sort of make an impact and stuff like that. So I think those are the things that really, for me, spoke to me as to why this movie didn't work. Like I said, I didn't get along with any of the characters. I didn't care about any of the characters. I thought it felt sort of like they were trying to create cutscenes, or they felt like really bad cutscenes was what the movie felt like. And like I said, no motivations for the characters. you didn't, like I said, the crazy that they have in there, he's taking care of the girl. I think that's what they're called, the guys from the desert with the face masks. In the opening scene, he saves the little girl for no reason at all. And it's like, okay, so what's going on? There's no explanation. Oh, he just likes her for whatever reason. It's like, okay. And that's how bad the writing was. Like, why is Kevin Hart's character rescuing the girl? Why was he away was he going away to get a vehicle? I mean, a lot of stuff is just not explained. It just was really bad storytelling. And so I think Borderlands could have been a lot better movie if they would have really worked on the plot, giving characters motivation, giving scenes weight. So that, and if they're going to do an action scene, but do it well. I can't remember one action scene in there that's really memorable. I mean, they all they just were just really bad. So don't go see it. It is a horrible, horrible movie. Other thing for pulp culture, which I got from Collider this week, which I wanted to share with you guys. So I think it's always fun to look back at previous movies and see what's happened before. And so we're celebrating 25 years for the Blair Witch Project. So one of the things I think is always important is to look at film and sort of see when we have these new sort of developments within film. So like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid's a great example of this. So when that was written by William Goldman, it really changed the way that people looked at scripts because it was a story, and most times it was just sort of like very bland action stuff that was going on. But he really turned that into a story, and so scripts after that time have always been a type of story. And so same thing with sort of the Blair Witch Project. So one of the best defining horror phenomena of the era, the Blair Witch Project, ushered in a new wave of found footage horror films. And so they really set the stage for this. So at the time before this, there wasn't this type of found footage horror films, and they really got the genre going. As well as low-budget films attempting to recapture the magic and success. The film follows the story of 3 student filmmakers in October 1994 who disappeared in the woods while shooting a documentary. The footage of the film is presented as the remaining recovered footage from the students depicting their last days before their mysterious and terrifying demise. Those who were around during the height of the Blair Witch Project's popularity and the lead up to its release understand just how much of a cultural phenomenon the film became. It was the first of its kind in terms of films that used the internet for its genius marketing campaign and redefined what was considered possible in terms of low-budget filmmaking, a testament to what is possible in the digital era. While many other horror movies have taken the found footage concept and built upon and expanded upon it, the Blair Witch Project popularized the undeniable legacy of the original cannot be denied. And so, like I said, I think it's always good to look at previous old films and stuff like that and see what has been, what has happened in the past and why these are good now. And so I take a look at and ask you to take a look at some of these other articles too from Collider and stuff like that. So I don't always agree with, like I said, a lot of these articles I read before and stuff like that too, I don't always agree with, but I thought those are really interesting. Again, so one of the ways to create a better screenplay and create a better story is to take a look at what's going on now and how do you turn it on its head, or how do you turn it into something different. And that leads us into our screenwriting article for the week from here we go, screenwriting tips from Script Magazine. So this is a little older of a article from Script Mag. Again, I will link the article in the description for this video, and if I make a separate video, I will do that. So this particular article talks about change up. And so just to let you know, there's gonna be some spoilers about the movie Barbarian, which came out in 2022. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to see it, wait to watch this particular video. But it talks about something called change up. So it's a major plot that completely changes everything in the story. And so with this particular movie, I just wanted to sort of point this out. So what they're saying, so the technique which they're calling basically, and some other movies that they use as references, Plane from 2023 and Missing from 2022. So it's a technique called change up. Now that's not the official name of it. That's just what the author is saying it. So it's basically a big plot twist that changes everything and keeps the story from being predictable. Again, that's not a film term. But taking a plot twist. So M. Night Shyamalan has been really famous for stuff like this too, but his movies recently have just not hit particularly well. So what happens in Barbarian? Let me get down to. All right. Let me get to this part. Let me talk a little bit more about what the big change does. So one of the things about folding a story is to remember that just because the writer didn't give the audience all the information at the beginning doesn't mean that the information hasn't always been true. A plot twist isn't creating new information. It's merely revealing information that has always been true. By the time the audience has assembled all the pieces in missing, they discover that everyone in the story is not who they seem to be, and things that they thought were true were deceptions. Characters were lying, and the audience believed those lies. But those characters knew they were lying and knew who they really were and what their motivations were. And so this causes people to sort of hit the rewind button and watch the film again because they want to see, okay, so what is really happening in here? Okay, so this is how, and this shows you how well this works. Because if you look at Barbarian from 2022, it was written and directed by Zach Krieger. It had a budget of $4.5 million, and it had a gross of $40.8 million. So again, it talks about how you're able to have a low budget film and still make a lot of money because you're creating a product that people are enjoying, the story is engaging, something that Borderlands can learn, but you're changing everything. You're making this unpredictable. Okay, so I'm going to just do a little bit of this here. So basically, in Detroit on a stormy night, Tess pulls up to an Airbnb in a desolate part of the city where she is staying for a job interview in the morning. The neighborhood is run down. The house isn't great looking, but it's only for one night. The lockbox is open. The key isn't there, and someone's in the house. The door is opened by Keith, who also booked the house for that night. Double book, Keith offers to sleep on the sofa, and Tess can use the bedroom. This is a creepy situation, sharing a creepy house with a strange man. We think this is going to be the story. And Tess makes sure to take a picture of Keith's driver's license with their phone just in case. Now, in the middle of the night, Tess wakes up and the locked bedroom door is now wide open, but Keith is asleep on the sofa and says he didn't open the door. Then who did? And so then you have that part of the movie. Now, the interesting thing, there's a change up. So they end up going down to a tunnel below the house, and suddenly they are attacked. Before Tess can help him, something in the tunnel attacks both of them, killing Keith and grabbing Tess. Then suddenly, you're in Hollywood. A bright sunny day, actor AJ is in his convertible tooling around town when his phone rings. His agent, it seems that an actress has accused him of sexual assault. Is it true? Gabrine is a complete jerk and wants to fight the allegations. So you suddenly see that the film has suddenly changed. You're like, what the heck is going on? Well, he owns some rental properties, and one of those rental properties happens to be the Airbnb in a bad part of Detroit. And so you can see here, and I'll link the rest of the article so you can read it. So, but you have this big change here, and it's like, wow, something's changed, and you sort of thrown the audience off. Now, the plot points are both true. Nothing is not true, but they're both true. And so now you have these different things happening. And so I think when you're writing a story, sometimes you can do these twists. And it's what you do as a writer is you don't give the audience the whole part of the information. You withhold part of the information until they need it. And then you tell them the information at that particular point in time. And I think like I said, then you get people wondering, okay, because you can, depending how you frame a story, you can get them seeing stuff one way. And then when you can, after that, you can talk about something else. And then suddenly the story, which they seem to be going this direction, is really going in this direction. And it's from a certain, as Ben Kenobi from Star Wars is saying, it's a certain point of view that allows you to see that. So give this article a read, and yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. So I think, like I said, I think it's a pretty good article and something a little different for how to do stuff. So, all right. Let's see here. So So I talked to Justin from SoCreate this week. I'm on a call with him on Friday. We're going to see a new feature for SoCreate. So if you use SoCreate, there's an exciting new feature coming out for the community. So I'll cover that. And as soon as I know more, I'll let you know. I did talk to the creator of Prewrite and talk to him a little bit about his program. I'm going to be trying to create a series about I'm going to use Prewrite to create a series just for me writing. I don't get paid for this. This is just something I really enjoy the tool. I'm hoping to do a video talking the difference between Prewrite and Final Draft in terms of how they're different, how they both work, how their pre-work works differently. And I like Prewrite actually better than Final Draft in terms of pre-writing. Now, in terms of the actual editor, Final Draft is hands down better than Prewrite in terms of the writing editor. But so I think that would be a really good thing to do. And he's also the guy who's working on Prewrite also talk to me about some of the issues I was having, and he's fixed several of those issues that we were having. Again, it's better to use on Chrome than it is on Safari. So if you're going to use Prewrite, which I strongly suggest if you're a screenwriter, give it a write. They have a free version. And give it a look-see. It's really been helpful. It's great at sort of editing and outlining your story. So take a look at that. Good stuff for that. Let's see here. Let's see, screenwriting software updates. So back to channel updates. I know I sort of started with that. So we got a lot of videos coming out this week. Solo duet. I think that's right. Writer's duet, solo duet. Yeah. So solo duet. So one of the subscribers to the channel let me know that solo duet is hard to find off the Writer's Duets website. So I talked to Writer's Duet. They gave me a link to get you right into the program. So I'll post that so you'll be able to see that. So if you like Writer's Duet at all, so Writer's Duet, its claim to fame is that it was the one that really got collaboration going within the industry. And so if you're interested in just using the program but not having to work with somebody, that's what solo duet's all good about. So I'll get that out. Hopefully 2 first pages script videos. I have to also working on a video for someone who wants to know how to write a book using AI for self-help. So we'll talk about that. Hopefully I'll get that video out as well too. So there's a lot of stuff coming up along the line. So just stay tuned. If there's any other particular videos you want, or if you need any help, let me know. There's a couple questions I'm still answering on Kitsonaris that I'll hopefully have the answers out for you today if you're looking for that. I think other than that, then just keep writing. I think that's the hard part of this thing that we do together is writing. It's real easy to say, well, I'll do it the next day, but I encourage you to keep writing. Especially, like I said, I had a down week last week, but just keep working at it. It's one step at a time. And just a reminder that, each day is a new day, and what didn't work yesterday, you can find maybe a solution for today. So, well, I think that's it for me for today. I hope you all have a great week. I'll have some more videos out for you this week. If there's anything particular you want, just let me know. Till the next time, live well and write well. Take care.